Welcome to Cyberhood, where you can learn all about the things you didn't know regarding cybersecurity. With Cyberhood, you become more aware, and because of that, you become more secure. Learn more at cyberhood.com. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's been in the news a lot lately called Zoom bombing. Zoom bombing is where someone joins your web conference uninvited. They can crash it, they can display bad images, they can shout obscenities and disrupt your meeting. So we're going to show you, unlike what's been in the media saying that these things are happening, we're going to walk you through the configuration of these settings to just show you exactly what you need to do to secure your Zoom meetings. So let's have you log in and follow along in your Zoom admin console alongside ours. I've blackened out our private information here so that we don't put ourselves at risk in this tutorial. Once you're logged in, the first thing I want you to do is go to Security under Advanced Admin, Advanced Security, and turn on two-factor authentication. You're going to take your phone out, you're going to scan a QR code in Google Authenticator, and you'll be able to have two-factor authentication on this critical account, as you should do with all your other accounts. The only other thing under this security setting I draw your attention to is to set your minimum password complexity requirements to coincide with your company's policy. Ours is the new NIST standard of 14-character, non-complex, non-expiring passwords. I don't mind showing you that because I've got two-factor turned on as well. We store it all in a LastPass password manager, which is provided to all Cyberhood employees. So let's move on to account settings. Once you're ready, pause the video until you get to the screen, but then start again. Okay, let's go over the 10 or so critical functions that you need to turn on and off. The first two are turning them off, and they're off by default. Host video, participant video. You want to get settled. You want your participants to get settled and to make sure their environment is in a pristine and safe public way before they enable their video. So I recommend turning this off before automatically so that they have to manually turn it on. Enable telephone and computer audio so that cell phone people can join by their cell phone if they're traveling and not at a computer. Disable this join before host. This is important because this used to be enabled, but now it's off by default. Leave it off. You do not want participants unsupervised in your meetings before you arrive. That's just a recipe for disaster. So turn that off, especially in school environments. Enable authentication for users joining by web client. Require a password when scheduling new meetings. This was also off by default. Now it is on by default. However, it impacts old meetings. You may actually have to delete your old meetings and reschedule them because having this on and an old meeting not requiring a password is in conflict and people will not be able to join. So my experience is you have to delete and recreate those meetings, especially recurring meetings. Require also a password for instant meetings and personal meeting IDs, so PMI is also important. You can embed passwords in meeting links for one-click join. I enable this for a high security environment. You want to disable that. You don't want that password floating around in the meeting invites. It's too easy for it to be copied and pasted into an Instagram or a social media or a chat room and shared, and then you have people bombing your meeting. Share the meeting password in another offline through text messages or through an email outside of the meeting invite itself. Require a password for participants to join by phone. That's important too, because then you can prevent some of those folks from sharing your meeting by phone. Passwords should be required when joining meetings from a meeting list. These don't matter. Here, Zoom got into some trouble with routing Zoom meetings through various foreign countries, and they've claimed they've corrected that. But I would enable this feature to require encryption for third-party endpoints all the way through. I think that's important. The next big one, this is a big one for security, chat, especially in school settings. You want to enable public chat, but disable private chat so that you can supervise what's being said in your chat environment. And then I would also suggest that you prevent participants from saving chat. That can just save you trouble down the screen. Now that won't prevent an image capture, like a phone snapshot of a chat that's going on, but this makes it a lot harder to capture the bad things people say and make mistakes. So I would turn that on. You would disable file transfer. That's a good security setting. You could also play a sound when participants join or leave. That's also a good security setting. So you're aware, both the host and attendees hear when people join the meeting. Um, Looking down this list, those are the big ones. There is one more. This one here is a convenience feature. I would say leave it off in school environments because you don't necessarily, all the names of your students if you're teaching a class. But for me, I hosted a meeting with Rotary recently with 100 participants. I didn't have everybody's name memorized, so having their names on their face was really helpful to me. So I leave that on for myself, but for a school setting, I would turn it off. Peer-to-peer, this allows for encryption and direct connectivity between two computers. So I enable this. That's an important one. Okay, this is the final and most important setting of all, waiting room. This will by enabling waiting room, it will prevent your Zoom meeting from being bombed by someone you did not authorize. In other words, anyone that has the meeting invitation and provide the password that you set can get into the waiting room, but they cannot join the meeting until you, the host of that meeting, add them manually. This can be cumbersome with 30 or 40 students or a large group, but it will also prevent your meeting from being bombed because you can see who is joining the meeting before they get into the meeting. So you may want to have a co-host who's responsible for that and adds those people in as they join your meeting and allowing you to focus on presenting. But this for all participants, enabling the waiting room is the one most important feature for blocking Zoom bombings. And with that, you have your cybersecurity training on Zoom meetings and protecting them from being bombed.